Hi, everyone. Welcome in today. My name is Daniel, and I'll be hosting this session on data validation and custom data rules. We'll give other folks another minute or two to trickle in here. I'm out in Portland, Oregon, so feel free to come say hi in the chat and let me know where you're coming in from. Also, if you have any experience with data validation or creating custom data rules from scratch in QuickBase, I'm curious if this is new to folks or if you have some experience creating these and you're just here to learn a little bit more. So welcome. And so far, every session I've done, this is my last one, so it's kind of sad as Empower is coming to an end here, but all of them have been international so far. So I'm always keeping my eyes open to see where folks are coming in from. So it looks like Dallas, Detroit, Minnesota, St. Louis, Steve saying data rules are pretty new. We'll learn all about them today. We'll get started here shortly. Hope everyone's been enjoying their Empower, all the different sessions we've had to offer. Folks have been asking about recordings, depending on if it was recorded via Zoom or if it's live like this. The timeline will be a little bit different, but they'll all eventually be available for everyone. Looks like we've got Wisconsin. Oh, no, I'm not scrolling fast enough. Florida, California, Connecticut, Colorado, California. Hi, Phil. Welcome. So we'll go ahead and get started here. We've got about 50 folks, and we're 2 minutes past the start. So if you signed up for a bunch of sessions and you stumbled into this one, just want to make sure you're in the right one. This is data validation using custom data rules. And as I mentioned a couple minutes ago, my name is Daniel Callahan. I will be your host today. I've been at QuickBase for just around 6.5 years, and for the last 1.5 years, I've been a product trainer. Before that, I was a developer or builder, so any apps that we run the business on, I would help design and deploy and maintain all those. Since this is a workshop-style session, we do ask that you have the permission to create apps from scratch, as we're going to download one from the Exchange. So if you already have a Builder account, awesome, highly recommend that. That's what I'll be working within today. And with the Builder account, it's basically your personal QuickBase account. So you're the admin, so you know automatically that you have build permissions. And let me go ahead and link this in case you don't want to type it in or search for it. There you go. If you don't have a Builder account open, but you are logged into your corporate account, just make sure that you know that you can create apps from scratch on there. If you're not sure, if you're not an account admin, just head over to the Builder program website and open up a Builder account. It's free. It just requires first, last name, a non-corporate email address. That way no wires get crossed, and then throw in a password. You'll get a verification email immediately. Just go ahead and click through that. That way you don't run into any snags. And if you have any issues opening a Builder account, just throw it in the chat or the Q&A, and myself or Brian Caffarelli, who's manning the Q&A today, will help you out. Once you're signed into your Builder account or your corporate account, what we'll want to do is go find the app that we're going to be using today. So there's two separate experiences. From the Builder account on the left, you'll see an Exchange link at the bottom of the Learning and Help column. And if you're on a corporate account, you'll see an Example Sample Apps button at the top of that Learning and Help column. So whatever experience you're seeing, go ahead and click through, and you'll eventually be brought to a place where you can search for an app. And if you just search for this string here that I've pasted, it'll find you one app that you can go ahead and download. So this is our app exchange for folks who have never been here, basically a curated marketplace of apps from us and customers. You can see there's categories on the left that you can choose from if you want to not start an app from scratch and have a decent foundation to work off of, or just kind of check out the different types of apps that are out there in the world. Once you've got the app, what we'll do is go ahead and backburner it. And I'll keep up here and grab the app as well. We'll backburner it, as what we're going to do next is go through some of the learning goals and then the agenda so that we can achieve those learning goals. So 4 major learning goals here, and they'll be broken down to into an exercise per learning goal. So first, we're just going to understand what custom data rules are. Looks like the second learning goal is the same. So one of those should be learning what data validation is, and the second one is what custom data rules are. Third one is creating custom data rules from scratch. So we're going to create 3 data rules in total. And then the last exercise will be kind of combining these all together. So we're going to use formula logic to cascade these custom data rules. And we'll get more into that and to what all that means when we get into the workshop. But to achieve these learning goals, we've got a brief little agenda to review. First, we're going to put ourselves in the shoes of a builder at another tech company. So we'll essentially be role-playing as builders so that we're not just learning about data validation with no purpose. We're actually creating these custom data rules with this kind of example and these solves in mind. Once we learn about the use case, we'll learn about what data validation and custom data rules are in QuickBase and why they exist. And then we'll go ahead and from the ground up create 3 custom data rules workshop style in the app that we've just downloaded together. Then we'll always have a Q&A and some extras at the end. So basically, once I open it up for a Q&A, I don't just want to leave the question slide up there, so I'll have an extra slide and we can talk about those, or if you have questions about those, we can chat about those too. So let's go ahead and jump into it. We'll go right into the storing use case here. And we're going to be builders for Avi Printer. They're a global leader in office equipment space, mostly focusing on printers. And the field service managers out there are running into the following issues that they would like solved. The follow-up service dates that the techs are inputting into the app are being logged in the past, and that's definitely not what we want to be inputting into our app here. Additionally, the follow-up dates are being logged too far in the future. So we have a 30-day window that we need to adhere to for follow-up appointments. And right now, some of the techs are putting dates outside of that. And we want to go ahead and prevent that from happening. Lastly, there's a sensor inside of the printers that has a range of 0 to 200. It can't output a value lower or higher than that. So it's only going to spit something out between 0 and 200. But our techs are putting in a value in QuickBase that's outside of that range. Either they're nudging the keyboard and instead of putting 125, they're putting 1256, an extra number that gets out of that range. They may be nudging the negative sign. I'm not sure how looking at the keyboard, but they may put it in the negative range, and that's not a valid value. So we want to go ahead and prevent that from being saved so that the data in our table doesn't get poor over time. A reason to think about why we want to be preventing these is if any of these fields are being used in reports or on dashboards or action items or just for management to look at to see when follow-up dates are happening, if they're using a QuickBase calendar, we can see that if we allow this unvalidated data in the app, we're going to have poor data quality over time. So let's learn a little bit about data validation and custom data rules. So custom data rules are custom condition and error messages that enforce data validation at the table level. And this may sound a little familiar because if you've ever created dynamic form rules, which are enforced at the form level, you'll be very familiar with the conditions and the actions or the conditions and error messages in form rules. Big difference here is that form rules are only enforced on the form, whereas custom data rules are validated or enforced, at the table level. So if we look at this table level validation, we can start to think about all these other data entry methods in QuickBase outside of just the form. So if you have users that are importing data on a specific cadence, whether it's once a week, once a month, more often than that, they can bypass dynamic form rules because they're not using the form, they're importing via the import feature. That will no longer be an issue if you implement custom data rules because the import is happening at the table level. In addition to that, if you have folks using grid edit, which is a super common way for your users to input multiple records at once or edit multiple records at once, again, not on the form, so form rules wouldn't cover that, but custom data rules do. And we've got a few other examples here, API and then two different reports, Kanban and calendar. And that's because with Kanban and calendar reports, you can interact with records. Kanban, you can drag and drop. And so if you have users drag and dropping records that don't meet the data rules that you've put in place in the table, the record won't save. Whereas if you were only relying on dynamic form rules, nothing would prevent the user from saving that or drag and dropping that record through your Kanban report, whether it's project management or whatever else you're using that for. So I've and then one last thing. They are powered by QuickBase formulas and functions. So as we jump into the workshop, we will be writing out formulas. And as I always like to have handy here, here's our formula and function guide. You can access most of this within a formula builder, but I always like to pass this along so that folks can bookmark it, as it's just a handy tool to get a great overview on the different functions we have, what field types they're meant for, and a few examples to kind of help you through it. So we will be building in QuickBase formulas. We'll be building from scratch. I will be pasting the solution in the chat. So if you're just having issues with any formatted formula, I still want you to be able to test these data rules out. So I'll be pasting that in the chat so that you won't fall behind or feel rushed or anything like that. We got a question about, do these also work using the APIs? Yes. So you can see right here the fourth option that data validation is enforced at is the API level. Import as well. That's the second one on there because those are done at a table level. So when you're using the API, you're doing an API add record, and that's targeting a specific table, or API edit record, same kind of flavor there. And then, again, importing and exporting, those are both actions taken at the table level. So I briefly talked about why they already exist. Oh, hey, no worries. Yep. And I'll go over it kind of a little bit more comprehensively here, but basically you all asked for them. So we have a customer feedback platform called User Voice. And if you used it before, it kind of has a voting mechanism to it where you can vote on issues or feature requests that other folks have put in, or you can submit your own. And so this was actually the #1 feature request for quite a while on User Voice, was that, hey, I have these dynamic form rules in place, but my users are using grid edit. What's happening? This data is getting in here unvalidated, and we need to stop that. So that's why we came out with custom data rules. Initially, just the form rules were not robust or comprehensive enough, and just talking about data rules being at the table level and not at the form level, we get a better understanding of how comprehensive it is now. Any questions on data validation or custom data rules? I'll give it a few moments here, and then we'll go ahead and jump into the workshop. And just taking a couple of steps back, data validation is basically checking the accuracy and quality of data before using it. So rather than just allowing any data to get into your app, we want to go ahead and check it via these data rules before it gets in. That way there's less cleanup, and we know that our data is accurate, so we can rely on our reports and dashboards. In a QuickBase sense, it's not allowing records to be added or updated if the values being entered or added don't meet your kind of business standards there. All right, so let's jump into the workshop. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. So if a few folks just want to let me know in the chat that you can see it, it may take a few moments here, but as soon as you do see it, just a quick confirmation would be helpful. And at this point, while this is loading up, everyone can go ahead and jump back into their app that we had backburnered. And you can all see that I've got it open here as well. And I'll just wait for a quick couple of confirmations here. Okay, awesome. So it looks like folks are seeing my screen. So this is the app that you all downloaded. I'm in here with you as well. Before we just jump into this workshop, we'll do a quick level set on what the app is. You know, we talked about Abby Printer being in kind of the printer or office hardware space. And this is a little bit of a CRM / ticketing management or repair ticket management app that they're using. So we've got our accounts, our different customers. We have different offices, different locations. And then being in the printer business, we've got devices and repair tickets. And these repair tickets are child records to the devices. So basically, we have a table full of devices, and we want to be able to track all the different repair tickets that we are updating or adding or kind of using this as a ticket management system to be able to manage here. What we're going to do is focus on the repair ticket table. So let's go ahead and click on there. And if ON24 hasn't done it already, you want to go ahead and kind of toggle through and have the My Shared Screen kind of on your maximized window there. I'm just going to give us a brief reminder here of what the first exercise is, and that is not allowing dates in the past to be entered in the date to follow up field. So we can see it right here on our report, date to follow up. Another example of this is if you use QuickBase for project management and you have a project table with a project end date or project close date field, you may not want your users adding a date in that field unless the status is equal to completed. And you can do that with form rules, but again, if you have your project managers working in grid edit, you would need to create a custom data rule. So we're going to focus on this as far as a ticketing system, but it can also be used in project management and really anywhere you're seeing or you are using and relying on date fields, and you don't want a specific date value being entered in here. So let's jump into our settings here. And that's by clicking the sprocket in the upper left. Once we're in our settings, if we scroll to the bottom on the left, we have an advanced settings option, and that is where custom data rules exist. So if we scroll all the way down in our advanced settings, the first thing you want to do is check this box to turn them on. I've gone through some of these trainings, and we've made some custom data rules, and then I or some attendees don't check the box and we're kind of wondering like what the heck's going on here, because the formula looks good, it's saved, we go and grid edit some records and nothing's triggered. So first and foremost, check that box so that it's on, and then we'll go ahead and start to write out this formula here. So this, again, is the first exercise where we don't want dates in the past to be allowed. And let me know if I need to zoom in anymore. I'll do 175, and I may have to zoom out a little bit as this formula builds. But what we're going to start with is an if, just a simple if function here, because we are going to have this formula evaluate the data. And if it passes our standards, then we don't want anything to happen. If it doesn't pass our standards or it's not validated good data, we're going to prevent the record from being saved or grid edit being saved or prevent the import from happening. So we're going to start with if here. And then I learned something, I don't know if Francesco's in here, but I learned something really awesome from a customer yesterday, is rather than coming down here and do your fields and functions, you can actually hit Control Space, and that pops up your field list here, and then you can actually search. And we know we want date to follow up. Once we click on that, boom, it turns into the field here. You can always rely on your fields and functions box here, or it might be over here on the right, depending on your browser. But yes, Marissa's saying Francesco is the man, and that's 100% correct. So I'll go ahead and delete this and do it again. You just hit Control Space. It'll pop up your field list here, and then we can start typing in kind of like the search ahead record picker function. Now, what we want to say is if the date to follow up is before today, and if we think of date before is going to be less than, right? If the date to follow up is in the past, or if it's less than today, we'll use the trusted today function. Then we want a error message to display. Now, we could decide to build this out a little bit further, right? Because there's maybe another condition we wanted to take into consideration here, and that's if the ticket is completed. Because if the ticket's completed, the date to follow up is going to be in the past. So what we can do is use the AND operator, and then we can grab ticket status and say the ticket status is not equal to completed. That way folks try updating a completed ticket and the date to follow up in the past, which is most likely will be, they're not going to get nailed by this data rule. So totally optional, but just think about how you're using your table and what data is in there and your workflow. But we'll add this extra little condition here. Anastasia's saying you're not. So yeah. So and I forgot to mention this, but in order for Control Space to work, you have to have a space basically in between where you're trying to press it. So over here, you'll notice that I had a space after my if function, and I can do Control Space. But if I didn't, I get the no matches found. So you kind of have to add a space as you build out the formula here. Let me know if that works for you. Okay, so at this point, we have our condition. This is our custom condition. Now what we can do is go ahead and type out the error message. So just like in any if function, we have our statement, and now we're going to go ahead and type in a result. So we'll do a comma, and I'm going to jump down to new line. This is a naming convention I follow when I create custom data rules, just so it's easier as a builder or admin to follow. But I like to actually put the rule in the message. That way, if you've given your end users a cheat sheet on the different rules out there as just a reminder, they can match. And then as you're kind of adminning your app, you have this rule as a prefix as well. Completely optional. You don't need it if you don't need to. But what you do need to do is write an error message here so that if your users, or our text in this case, do try to put in a date in the past, they're going to get hit with a message, and they're going to be told, what went wrong. Otherwise, they're just kind of going in blindly there. So just a quick little sentence here. The follow-up date is in the past. Please adjust it so it's in the future. Simple as that. Now, what I like to do here, because this isn't a formula field, and so there's not a comments tab, what we can do is use the / to comment something in here to help ourselves out and our fellow builders out. Because you may build this rule and it's working fine, and you may not, have to troubleshoot or look at it for months, or another builder or admin has to troubleshoot it and they're not the one who built it. So you can do a couple of things here. First is just write a little kind of admin note that's different than the note that your end users will see. So this rule enforces our policy that follow-up date must be in the future. You might find that redundant because the message is up here. Again, just kind of giving you as many options that I've dealt with as I've created custom data rules. Also, I like to stamp this with my name and the date. And then I also like to stamp this on when it was last modified. That way, if you need to come back in here and troubleshoot, you know when this was created. So it's one more kind of tool in your tool belt to troubleshoot things. Or maybe a fellow admin has come in here and has really no idea what's going on. They know that you created it and you last modified it on this date. They could then reach out to you and help. You can help them from there on. And Lloyd's saying, love the comment since I can't remember what I did. Yeah, I feel you on that one, especially with formulas. Sometimes I go back to old forms. I'm like, I didn't even know I could do this, or when did I create this? So commenting is awesome. You'll see that QuickBase is not quite happy. It's shown some yellow highlighter here, and basically what I did not do is close my if function here. So I can just go to the end of line 2 and throw in a closing parenthesis. You can see it matches with the first one here, and QuickBase is happy. So I'm just going to copy the formula, as you can kind of come up with your own commenting ways, but I want to make sure everyone has the formula here. And now what we can do, and again, make sure this is checked. We can go ahead and save. Throw it in the chat if you're having any errors with your formula. You can always rely on copy pasting the one I put in there, but definitely give it a couple cracks. Once it's saved, we can hit exit settings. And now what we can do is head into our form. So I'm just going to open up, and remember, we put the condition that it's only going to fire off if the ticket status is not completed. So don't jump into one of these first 2 records as they're completed. I'm going to edit the 3rd record here where the status is not started. And if we scroll to basically the very bottom of the form, you're going to see the date to follow-up field. Go ahead and just throw in a date that's in the past. So you can hit T on your keyboard to throw in today's date, and then you can use your left and right bracket to quickly add or subtract a day from that initial value. So I'm just going to go ahead and throw in 5/23, and then I'm going to hit Save and Close. And here we go. So we're seeing on the form that this still works. And we get the rule that we defined. So whatever you want your message to be to your users. For our technicians here, we're saying, hey, follow date. Oh, and I put data. Awesome. Follow the data in the past. Please adjust it so it's in the future. So they'd come back down here and be like, oh, yeah, right. That needs to be in the future. And then they can go ahead and save it. Once you save your record, head back over to your repair tickets homepage. And let's go ahead and jump into Grid Edit really quick here. So on the new style reporting, right next to the new ticket button, you'll see this little pencil icon. And this is how you access Grid Edit. So let's jump in there together. And it looks like Laura got it working. Awesome. And I'm going to skip any task that's completed. And I'm going to go ahead and skip the one that I just updated. And I'm just going to go ahead and throw in a couple of dates in the past for multiple records here. And then hit save. And now we can see the error message pops up. And in the background, we have 2 red records. Those are the culprits here. And the one in the background here is not the record ID. That's actually the designation of the record in our error message that failed. So 1 here in the back corresponds with 1, and then 2 in the back is 2. So we've got 2 records that failed, and they failed for the same reason. Followed with data. I'll change that when we get in there. Followed data in the past. Now our technicians would be like, oh yeah, shoot, I meant to put that in the future. And we can just copy paste these values, or we can just clear these out.
Hey, Daniel, we got a great question here as you're showing us the errors in Grid Edit. Steve asks whether the custom rule can fire multiple errors for the same record. You're showing us errors for multiple records in the same view, but what if a single record validates more than one rule that you set up?
Yeah, awesome question. And you kind of ruined the surprise because our bonus exercise 4, is actually going to solve for this. So I'll back burner the question, but it's always asked at some point. So it's pretty awesome that it was asked during the first exercise. So we'll definitely get to that, Steve. So just hang tight for the final exercise. Okay, let's jump back into our settings here. And let's go back to our advanced settings and scroll down to our custom data rules. And now we're going to focus on exercise 2, which is not allowing dates that are outside of the 30-day window to be accepted. Let me quickly change this to date. Nice, Steve. And what we'll do is, first off, we're going to delete this closing parenthesis, and we're going to replace it with a comma. And that's because we are going to have one error message per if function. So replace that closing parenthesis on line 2 with a comma, and let's give ourselves a couple of extra lines after the comment so that each rule has a line break so that it's nicely sectioned off here. And then we're going to do the same thing. We know that this data rule is also going to rely on date to follow up, so let's grab that. And instead of saying less than today, we want to look for in the future, so we're going to add a greater than sign, and we're going to use today as well, but we're going to add 30 days to today. So we've essentially created our lower bound today and our upper bound 30 days. Or I'm sorry, our lower bound is today plus 30 days, and then our upper bound is anything after that. So we're using the days function here to add 30 days to today. And so what we're doing is on this side of the operator, we're adding 30 days. And then on the left side, we're just looking to see if the date text put in is greater than that 30 days. If it is, we want to repeat exactly what we did our first rule and go ahead and start typing out another error message. The follow-up date is outside of our allowed 30-day window, something like that. Please adjust it so it's within the next 30 days. And what I'm going to do is go ahead and copy all of the lines of my commenting from the first rule and just paste them down here. And then I just need to change the first line a bit because this rule enforces our 30-day window for follow-up dates. Something like that. So let me grab this and throw it in the, actually let me finish the formula because what we need to do is close out both of these if functions. So I think we can put it up here, or what we could do is put them both down here, closing parentheses. Doesn't matter, wherever you'd like. Everybody kind of writes formulas in their own way as far as the structure and commenting and closing things out, but as long as you do it, you won't see any yellow highlighter from QuickBase here. And someone may be asking, why do we have multiple if statements here? And again, that is going to lead to our last exercise, and we'll need to structure it this way, at least from what I've learned, to be able to kind of string them together here. So let me go ahead and copy this, and I'll remove my commenting if I can. Oh, I think I'm getting maxed out on characters. I don't know if I'll be able to paste everything. Let me see if I can do it in chunks here. So that's kind of the first part of the formula. I'll put my parentheses up here so they're here. So that's the complete formula without commenting. I'm just hitting a character limit in the platform here, so I can't do it all at once. But now we have two rules set up, so let's go ahead and click Save and test this out. And we'll jump right into Grid Edit here. And let's go ahead and break both rules. So again, we'll skip the completed records, and I'm going to put this one in the past, and I'm going to put this one a few months from now in the future. And then I'll go ahead and hit Save. Yeah, Allie's asking if the exclamation point and equal sign, which is does not equal, is the same thing as open caret and close caret. Yes, both are accepted in QuickBase formula language. And no, I don't think there's a better one. They both function the same. So now we can see here we've got two rules again that broke, two records that broke our rules, and now we're getting the different rules popped up here. However, well, I guess we can't break them at the same time, so we'll have to wait until exercise 3. But I want to show you what it looks like when you import. So I'm going to just quickly import a few values from a little spreadsheet that I have hanging out here, just a little clipboard, so we can get an eye on what that looks like. As I did mention that importing was one of the data entry methods that this is enforced at. And so now we can see, if I look at the data here, row 1 did not fail. Let me see if I can zoom in here a little bit. Row 1 did not fail because the date to follow up is in the future and it's within 30 days. And then this is row 1 of the data. A little confusing because it's got the headers included, but if we just kind of delete this. Row 1 didn't fail. Row 2 failed because it's in the past. And then row 3 failed because that date is outside that 30-day window. So you can get a little glimpse of what it looks like while you're importing as well. Everybody, did that work so far for everybody in GridEdit? And what we'll do is jump back into our custom data rules again. So settings, advanced settings, we'll scroll to the bottom. And what we'll want to do now is focus on exercise 3. Awesome, looks like it's working for everyone. Cool. Exercise 3 has to do with that heat output for a sensor or lamp, and it only accepts values between, actually, it only outputs values between 0 and 200. So we only want to allow that same range as well. So I'm going to go ahead and delete my closing parentheses here. Or I can just hit enter and push them down the canvas a bit so that I have room to throw in my third rule here. What we need to do right off the bat is add another comma after the second rule. And that's because we're telling QuickBase, hey, there's more to evaluate. It's going to be this third rule that we're going to add here. This time we want to grab a new field, and it's the lamp heat level degrees Celsius. So if you did Control Space and you search lamp, go ahead and grab that field. And what we want to say is if the value is less than 0, or that value is greater than 200, let me see if I can pull that onto one line. Go ahead and show those technicians another error message here, and we can just say the heat level reading must be between 0 and 200. Please correct the value entered. And then I'm going to grab my comments here, and I'm going to change this to this rule enforces our output sensor values of 0 to 200, something like that, as long as you get the message across there.
Dan, as you're building out these different rules and separate if statements, we have an interesting question about whether you could use the case function instead.
Yeah, so the case function will only work if you're looking at one field. So in this first rule, we're looking at 2 different fields. And then in this third rule, we're looking at, I guess 1. So the case wouldn't work because it's only going to look at one field value. You know what? I'm sure you could probably structure this in a way with case, but once we look at the next exercise, which is combining all of these together, I've only been successful at getting it to work with if statements and 3 if statements like this. And what we'll do is save this and then jump right back into these data rules and look at that bonus exercise of stringing these together, and then hopefully that'll make more sense as to why we have the if functions here. Let me copy
and paste.
That makes
sense. I guess they were thinking of doing case with true as the condition. I'm not sure if I've tried it exactly that way before, but
yeah, I'm all for learning how to more efficiently write formulas. So if somebody, once we get the final result, if somebody's able to structure it differently and it has the same behavior, not only stringing along the messages, but adding a break, which is what we're going to do, I'd love to see it because I've always been one to try and kind of minimize the length of the formula. So let's close this one up by adding our closing parenthesis for our third if function here. And let's go save it and then test it out. And then as we come back, we can talk a little bit about why we structured it this way. So I'm going to click Exit Settings. And then I'm going to jump right back into grid edit here. And now we have two fields that we can use to kind of try and input in unvalidated data. So we've got date to follow up, and we've got the degrees Celsius. So if we put anything outside of the 0 to 200 range, it should fire. So I'm going to pretend the tech was putting in 125, and they slipped on the 6 there. And then I'm going to put a date in the future. And then if we go back to Steve's question on, well, what happens if I break 2 rules? What happens? So let's go ahead and put in a value of 9,001. Not sure how that would happen. Maybe in an import, if they didn't kind of comb through the data. Now if we hit save, I should have skipped the second record. Sorry, because that one's completed. But record 1, we've got the rule number 3, right? It's outside that range. And then rule 2, record 2, we broke 2 rules, but only 1 is firing. And just imagine the frustration with the techs or your end users if you kind of did this to them. Because they're all thinking, I only broke 1 rule. Okay, sweet. I'll go change that. So, yeah, this one needs to be 125. Oops, I didn't mean to do that. And then I was only told about the date. So, right, that needs to be within 30 days. Let's do it on next week. Awesome, I'm going to save. Then they get hit again. Hey, you also broke rule 3. And if this is happening on, potentially dozens of records and you're breaking 2 to 3 rules at once, it's great they're getting the error messages, but they're probably going to be red in the face from frustration of seeing this over and over and over again. So what we want to do, and I'm going to clear these out. You can save them, doesn't matter. We're going to jump back into our settings here, and we're going to focus on exercise 4, which is that bonus one, which is getting all of these to essentially, I don't know the correct term, just make it so that if multiple rules are broken, multiple error messages are shown. You can call it like cascading these custom data rules. Maybe somebody has a better term for it. But what we want to do here is we're going to use another function in QuickBase that we haven't used. We've just kind of used if here. And we're going to put it at the very beginning of the formula. So go ahead and click into row 1. Give yourself some space. And we're going to use the list function. And what the list function does is it allows you to list out multiple values, text values, essentially a concatenation. And what you have to do is choose a delimiter, like a space, a hyphen, to separate those values. What we're going to do is put in the break tag. So what that will do is create a line in between the rules. And we want to go and delete this closing parenthesis here because otherwise we're not listing anything. After you identify the delimiter, you do a comma. So I'm saying, hey, QuickBase, list the following things with a break. And the following things are after the comma. Now, what we also want to do is so that this isn't a completely just compressed box of an error message, we actually want to add these break tags after each rule here. So we're going to find the end of our rule error message right after the quotes and inside the comma and add the ampersand, because that's how we string text. And then we're going to add that break tag in there as well. So we've added 2 breaks in 2 different places. One is between the error messages, and the other one is between the records. So if we have multiple records breaking multiple rules, if we didn't have these breaks, it'd be just one big box of text. We wanted to make it easier on our techs or our end users to be able to kind of break down all the different rules and error messages. So what you can do once you have this ampersand break at the end of your first rule, go ahead and head over to your other rules and just paste that in there. Because we don't know what combination of rules our end users are going to break. If we had 10 rules in here, they might break 1, 9, and 10, or any combination. So we want to go ahead and throw these break tags in here. Now, at the very end, QuickBase is saying, hey, we need to close this list function. But if you'll notice, it's not actually asking for that. It's asking for a comma. And that's because we need to delete these closing parentheses at the bottom. So we're going to compartmentalize each if function. And we're going to close each of them within their own little section here. So right after the break, closing parenthesis on rule 1. Right after the break here, closing parenthesis on rule 2. And then the last one, closing parenthesis on rule 3. And now QuickBase is saying, hey, I'm expecting another closing parenthesis because of that list function at the top. And now we can see that this closing parenthesis matches what's up there. So I'm going to try to paste this. It'll be 4 separate messages just because I don't want to run into a character limit. But if you copy all of these and paste them, you'll get an accepted formula here. Yeah, so we have a question on can you use contains? You can totally use contains. Can you use user roles, one of the new functions we added sometime last year? Yeah, so you can basically say, hey, if the user is not in the role administrator, trigger off this data rule. If this text value, if this text field contains a certain string, don't save. So we'll look at a couple of other examples when we look at the extras, but right now we've just kind of focused on date and numeric fields. And just think of this as a formula text box. So whatever functions a formula text box accepts, you're free to use them. Lloyd's asking about a character limit. I have not seen one, and I've seen some pretty crazy formula text fields. I think the longest one I saw when I copy pasted the words was like 50 or 60 pages. Definitely don't recommend making that a normal practice, but you can get pretty long with these. And we understand some of your tables may not have custom data rules. Other tables, your nucleus tables or major ones, may have tons of data rules depending on what you're trying to achieve. So I haven't hit a limit, but I'm sure somebody out there is going to try. So let's go ahead and save this. And then what we'll do is jump back into Grid Edit. And we'll break multiple rules within multiple records. And just remember to skip the first 2 records here. And what I'm going to do is focus on the 3rd, 4th, and 5th records, as those statuses are not completed. So I'm going to break rule 1 and 3 here. I'm going to break rule 2 here and rule 3. And then I'll just break rule 3 here. And now we can see within the first record, multiple rules were broken, and there's a break between them. If we hadn't added that break, these 2 rules would be clumped together, which may be okay if you want to save some space on the error messages. Maybe you're okay with the rules of the same record being put together. But this break I really like, the one in between the records. That way your end users can completely see, okay, with this record I broke these rules, with this one I broke these 2. And then with the 3rd record we only broke the 3rd one. If you want to remove these breaks, what we can do is go back into our data rule here, and instead of delimiting the list with a break, we could just do a space. And now we'll see what that looks like. So I come back here and I'll do, third record, date to follow up. And I'll just break rules 2 and 3. Let's see if that, actually I'll do 3 records here. This will be negative 100 and this will be 500. Oh, and I misspoke. So if we remove the delimiter of break and leave it with a space, that will clump these rules together, which some folks may prefer. So if you do like it this way, as opposed to a break being in between the rules, just use the list and then space delimiter instead of the list and break delimiter. If you don't want breaks in between each record, then what you would do is jump into your custom data rule and remove these breaks that we tagged at the end. I wish this would stay like this. You can remove these, but I think these ones are definitely more useful than the other breaks, but you'll kind of learn as you create these custom data rules and get feedback from your end users, what the happy balance there is between how you're delimiting everything. Just want to check on everyone. We've got a couple comments saying it's pretty cool, so I'm hoping that you were able to test out and it worked. Any other folks out there having issues with their formula or still testing it out in GridEdit? Let me know if I can help at all. At this point, the exercises are done, so I'll open it up to Q&A or just troubleshooting as folks are getting through here. And then what I want to do is go ahead and jump ahead to the kind of extras slide. Oops. So we'll just think of this as Q&A and, oh gosh, what am I doing here? Push to audience. There we go. So I'll put these up. Just some extras to kind of get the mind working of, we dealt with numeric and date fields. You may have other ideas in your mind here. Looks like a couple other folks got it working, so that's awesome. Steve's asking, could you use not right and strip out the last break from the list? I don't know. Let's give it a whirl here. And Olivia, if you can let me know in the chat how much time we have. That'd be great. I think we're good until 10 after, but I just want to confirm. Sometimes I'll say, hey, let's try it out, and then all of a sudden we're out of time, and definitely don't want that to happen. So Steve is saying, you're saying strip out this break here? Let me know if I'm understanding that correctly. A couple other questions as well. If it would support the HR, it would be great. It's more user-friendly. Oh, gotcha. Let me actually, I've got my little notes open up here from all my sessions for product feedback. Let me jot in the HR tag. Thank you for that. Is there a way to change the record call out of 1 or 2 to row 1? There's no way to change that because it's hard-coded, but because this is a formula text field, you could actually add a link in here to the record, or maybe at the no, that wouldn't work for the rule. Trying to think. I think what you could do in the rule is say, record ID number, or something like that might help, or project name, right? You could throw that in there so that it's more identifying. Just because it's a form of text, you can get away with some I think with some hyperlinking, or at least just identifying the record, so that would work. Steve, I'm sorry if I missed your, the last 4 characters, I got you. Yeah, I think you could do that. More questions coming in. Yes, Lloyd is saying the bold tag. Yes, absolutely right. I don't think you can do color because it's not a rich text, but that would be, I'm just going to write that down as feedback because I'm sure people will be like, yes, color would be awesome, especially with error messages to make certain things pop. So rich text, question mark. And then I'm I'm still going to share my screen here, but if anybody wants to jump over and kind of maximize the, oh, I've got 30 minutes. Oh, that's dangerous. Okay, awesome. So keep the questions coming or any things we want to try out here. But I'm going to focus on the extras really quick as other questions come in. But think about validating data values. So if somebody is putting in date values like we were doing with these first two rules, but they were, oops, my bookmarks go. I want to open up my formula function guide here. If somebody was putting in dates or they're importing dates and they have 5 digits in the year, that's going to mess up a lot of reports. Or if you only want to allow a specific range of years to be accepted, and again, these are the table level, so you can think of different tables. You may emphasize different date fields. So maybe in one table you only want to allow 1900 to 2200 years input. So if somebody accidentally puts 2300 or 2221, that could trigger a rule here. If somebody accidentally nudges the keyboard and puts in a 5-digit year, you could prevent that from saving, and that's going to help with a lot of reports. Some folks have always asked, hey, I use multiple choice fields, and I want to restrict a specific user or role from choosing a multiple choice option. There's no way to do that. What you can do is create a parent table that basically has a record per multiple choice option, then relate that table to the original table you were in. Now you can leverage the record picker and the custom record picker report to filter out options. A little bit of a cumbersome process. What you could do is create a data rule and say when the user is in this role and the status is equal to this, or the multiple choice field is equal to this, stop the save. It won't stop them from being able to select it, but it will stop the records from saving. So you have some data validation there and a little bit of kind of stopping their workflow. That's another example and a great workaround of having to create a parent table, which you then have to maintain by adding new records. If you add more multiple choice options or kind of inactivating certain options, you could try it that way. You can combine these with summary fields and then lookup fields with summary fields to look at inventory. So that if somebody's trying to add a record for 500 of a specific product, but there's only 400 left, it would abort the save so that they can't even add an order, with that quantity. We've got some folks in the chat, and Lloyd's saying since form rule cannot, I would write a formula and use it. Yep, you could do that too as well. Yep. And that's super helpful. Yeah, because there is a limit with the derived fields. Let's see, Christine's asking, is there a current user like in form rules? Yeah, you could just use the user function. Oh, current user. No, I see what you're saying. So I guess you could just say you could use user because that's going to look at who's executing the add record or edit record action. And so you could say if the user is equal to this person or this person, fire off rule number 6 or whatever. So you could use the user function there. We've got a question around special characters when the grid edit will support. Brian, you can take that one if you'd like. Since you may have a little bit more insight from a product standpoint. See if I missed any questions in the chat here.
Yeah, I believe if you open a support ticket, we can default a specific app to accept UTF-8 data, which is just kind of restricted to the entering UTF-8 data and reading it out. Doesn't apply to things like searching or filtering. Whether that applies specifically to grid edit, I'm not sure off the top of my head. That would be a great thing to open a care case about.
Awesome, thanks. And then Stephen was asking, is there a way to apply these custom rules globally to all fields in a form instead of field by field? No, I just think the way that the custom data rules are structured is you're kind of creating the rule from scratch. So you kind of user define or admin define. So you'd have to throw all the fields in there. Could definitely see how that would make the data rule large pretty quickly. And I think I just answered that question. You may have copy pasted because I missed it earlier. Yeah, okay, appreciate you doing that. We've got about 20 minutes left. If any folks have any more questions or want me to try anything out in here, I can always fumble along and we could try and show record ID number like this. That's probably not the most identifying. Maybe we want to do ticket number. So we could do and we'll do a space here. Maybe ticket number would be better, but we can take a look at record ID just so that the record ID is in there. Let me try and see what that looks like. I think it was the first rule here. Oh, that is a completed repair ticket. I just need to yank these off the report, and I won't do that to myself. Here we go. There we go. So record ID 6, I didn't add a space for the rule. Maybe you'd want to add the record ID at the end. I think you could make this a link to potentially get to the record, but since they're already in grid edit, it's just the user kind of needs to be notified that, this was, the record's already in the back. It's been identified for us with this red band, so then they could just quickly update it. But you could potentially, link it somewhere else. Gotcha. So Steve, restricted characters. Yeah, so I think if you use a contains, if the field, well, let's try it out. And for folks who are jumping off, thanks for coming. I hope you learned about custom data rules and you were able to get through the exercises. The recording will be available and the deck can be sent out as well. But I'm happy to hang out for the next 20 minutes just to see what people come up with and what we can try out here. We've still got a decent chunk of folks here with us. So let's try a contains here. So what kind of text fields do I have? That's not a multiple choice like status. Let me see here. A lot of multi-lines. Just want a basic text field. I guess I could do a multi-line. That's crazy. I don't think I've ever seen a table that doesn't just have a text field. You can always add one in here, but let's see what we have after these multi-lines. Yeah, let's try with a lookup field. Device type. Maybe that's a multiple choice field. Yeah, I'm just going to grab a multi-line here. So let's go with problem description. So I'm just going to wipe this out. And we'll say if problem, what did I do here? There we go. Oh, and contains is going to go before here. So if problem description contains, and let's try, like you said, a pipe, which I think is this. Or we can do an or here to throw in a couple of them. What else did Steve have up here? A pipe or a backslash. Let's change this into a backslash. Oh, you're not going to like that. I think I need to escape this. I don't know if I'm going to do this right or not. That's annoying. Brian, you can chime in too if you want to help me escape this backslash, or somebody in the chat can. I don't know if I need to use a single quote. Maybe it'll work anyway.
Try 2 quotation marks before it and then 1 after it. Typically, you escape with 1 additional quotation mark, but QuickBase automatically gives you a matching pair. Looks like it doesn't like it.
Let's see if it. I'll just say rule 1. No, it's not happy because this was all. Yeah, let's try that. No, I don't think that's happy either. Oh, did I close? Oh, I didn't close the contains. That might help.
Yes.
Rule number 1. Let's just say this contains special characters. We'll just do it like that. Let me try the ampersand, or if that's gonna. It looks like it's just the backslash.
We've got a suggestion of putting 2 slashes in to escape it instead of the 1.
What's the double quote like this? Oh yeah. All right. I mean, it's happy. We'll try it out. So I'll save this, and let me jump into a record and jump into that problem description. And let me actually throw that on. Oh, it's here. Awesome. Already on the report. I think we may have got it working. There's a combination of the backslashes, quotes, and forward slashes. We'll try this out. But I'm going to clear this out, and it was a pipe. So this field, just kind of throwing in some gibberish here, cannot contain a pipe or was it a backslash? Yeah.
It was a backslash. Yep.
There we go. So it works. Let me try it on grid edit.
Great. All right.
Yeah, wild, huh? And thanks for the recommendation on whoever said the double backslash, because that looks like that kind of cleared it out.
Yeah, we all learn from each other. I love it.
Exactly. And what were we doing here? Oh, yeah, the problem description. So I'll just put in a pipe on this one and a backslash on this one. There you go. Probably a better rule would help out here, but I wish I could move this thing. But yeah, that works for special characters, so that's cool. What else do we have here?
Hey, we just got another good question. I don't think we've talked about this. What if you already have data entered in a table that breaks one of the rules that you're writing here?
Oh, gotcha. So basically, I would need to stop my rules, put in some data that breaks it, and then enable them, and then test it out. All right, let's try that. So this should save now because I disabled my rules.
Yeah, so this is going to work like a form rule does. These custom data rules are sort of like the table version of form rules. So, they're not actually scanning the records that are already in the table. They are sort of a gate to changes that are being made in the data. So it's not retroactive to the data that you already have on the table. Now, you might be able to, depending on how many records you have on the table, this may be either faster or slower, but you could imagine creating a checkbox field whose purpose is to essentially run custom data rules on data that's already been entered into the table. If you were to trigger those in grid edit, and you could do a fill down, so you could do that over many records quickly, and then if you attempted to save those, then it would run those rules for you.
Cool. So what you're saying here is, if I try and save this now, it's going to allow it to save because it existed prior to the data rule.
That's right.
Yep. Looks like that's what happens here. Let's see. We've got a question. What happens if you build a custom? We just answered that.
Oh, sorry. Let me mark that one as answered. Yes.
No, you're good. Now we're looking at global variables. So if I jump into my app here, and I'm guessing, Steve, this is what you're mentioning, is if we have a variable here. Oops, I should just hit yes. So we'll call it custom data rules. And any ideas on a variable, Steve? I feel like this comes from something you're trying to solve potentially. If not, I can't remember the last time I used a global variable, so I'll try and come up with something here. Maybe we can say current 2021, and we'll call it current year. Yeah, we'll try this. See if that works. So now we want to say, oops, let me clear this out. And I haven't used it in so long. Is it just the same as a formula variable, or is it different?
It's the same as a formula variable. I believe you use the cache for the name of it.
Just the money sign? Yeah, okay.
Yep.
What did I call it? Current year?
Do you actually have a space in the name of your app variable? I know formula variables don't allow that, so I'm a little surprised you were able to save it. You may want to try to just recreate one with no spaces in the name to give that a shot.
Sorry, Brian, I couldn't hear you that well. You're saying to just create the variable in here as opposed to the global variable?
No, sorry. I was saying I think it's the space in the name that's causing a problem. If you create a new variable on the global list there, yeah.
Gotcha. Let's try this out.
Yeah. You may need to refresh the page for it to, yeah, exactly.
So let's do year of date to follow up. Mine is greater than current year. Yeah, I don't think it likes it.
Yeah, I think you need to use the formula variable, it looks like.
Yeah. Just throw it in here. Yeah, so look, that one's a no-go. Christine is asking, can you prevent the addition of new records if not an admin or something prevent editing of a certain field? Yeah, totally. So I've created one of those before, and what we would do is say if, and let me make sure I get the correct function, but it's user roles. Here we go, user roles. So we basically want to say if, and then we go to our app and go to our roles. And admin is role 12. So if I hover over this into the role, right up here you can see role ID is 12. So I can say if user roles 12, or maybe I want to say non-admin, so I can grab a different user role, but I think you can say it contains, gosh, how did I do this one? I think it's, if it contains 11, which is not an admin, or what's the other role here, 10, and then now we want to define the field. Oh, so you're saying adding a record. I don't know. I don't know if you can prevent. Oh, James was saying the global value was not referenced with the money sign. It's referenced like a table field. Oh, let's see. I kept it in here, so let's see if that. So you're saying just do current year like this? I'm kind of doing two things at once, so let me break these up here, and I'll just comment this out. It's like a table field name, so you can just put the brackets around the global variable name, I think. Let's see if, and what we were doing year of date to follow up is greater than, what don't you like here now? I wonder if it doesn't like it. Let's see if it saves anyways. The date to follow up is, oh, maybe we could just do not equal to, no? I don't know if it's the current year that it's not liking this on. I'm assuming year is a number, so I mean that makes sense that it's saying you can't do that here.
Right.
The variable is a text field, yeah, so maybe to number this. Oops.
I try adding a space before the function name. It's
I think this is happy.
there.
And then we'll just say wrong year. Please change. And close this. So let's try this out now. So I think Steve might have left. I don't know if Steve's still here, but it looks, it's accepting the variable. So now, let me just cancel out of here so I can kind of start from scratch. And then, so we're saying it's the year. Oops, and I have that completed ticket there. So we'll do 2022. Ah, that's so cool. It does work. Hey, Steve, global variables worked. Thanks so much. Thanks so much, James. Yeah, that's awesome. So just a little bit of type conversion in the data rule, and that got it going.
Yep, I guess we use the formula variables too much, and we don't use the global variables enough.
Yep. So that works. And then I was working on the user roles. I got distracted there. Katie, which code are you looking to get copied? The one I just made with the global variable, or let me know and I'll grab it for you. And back to Christine's question of preventing the addition of new records. Yeah, I mean, if somebody's trying to add a record via grid edit and they get halted by this data rule, it'll prevent the creation of records. Or if they're trying to import new records and they get stopped by the data rule. There's that for you, Katie. Then yes, this would work. So let me get back to this one. Okay, what was I doing here? So basically, if the user is in the role viewer or participant, yeah, I mean, I guess just say you can't create records. Sorry. What's going on here now? Oh, did I? Really? Learning a bunch today. Let's see if I can. No, dang it. I'm thinking since you know what? Let me get rid of this smiley. I don't think it's going to do anything. Oh, I've got no, I do want that comma. Oh, I need to close the contain. Did I not close this contain? Contains. Oh, gotcha. I think I need to do this. Something like that. I'm getting there. It's something. to just find my old code that I had somewhere. So user roles is going to output a number, right? Yep. Returns the role ID. Oh, we could do name too. That's pretty cool. Maybe we want to to-text this. User roles. Oh, I need to do number here, I think, is what I'm putting in the number in the wrong place. We've got 5 minutes, but I'm going to keep stumbling through this if anybody's still here and enjoying this. So I actually want to put ID in here. That's what I'm messing up with. So ID and then 11. We'll get there. Let's get rid of this text for now. Okay, that's happy. And then I'm just going to copy paste this. We'll change it to 10. And why do I have that? And why do I have that? There we go. Sorry. Okay, let's try this. How am I going to do this? I'll put myself in another role, and we'll see if that gets it going. All just kind of, jamming here, trying to see if any of this works. So let me...
Yeah, I have a feeling that the custom data rule does not currently have the ability to tell the difference between the type of data change. So, adding a new record versus updating an existing versus deleting. This may be a great piece of product feedback. If this test does not work, I think that's probably why.
Yeah, let me see. So I'm going to go into grid edit and... Well, yeah, so basically if I do anything here, I think it's going to fail, but I'm going to stick to the new record. I don't think any of these are required. Okay, just give me my value here quickly. There we go. Date default doesn't matter. It worked. It didn't let me create a record, so that was kind of cool, but I'm guessing... if I even delete it? No, okay, let me go back into grid and just try and edit some records here. We haven't defined what the editing is.
Right, and of course you could use permissions to determine which tables folks in each role have access to add and delete, but pretty sure the reason why we're looking at this is that folks want to get a little more granular so that you can add records under certain circumstances or only add certain types of records, but not others. Or safer to me.
Yeah. So this is how you use roles, and then Brian is saying you need to kind of add some more flavor to this. So instead of just looking at the roles, you may want to say and, like I have in the bonus slide, if status equals completed, then it fails because what you're saying is you don't want folks in these roles, and we can just do one. You don't want, what? Oh, I should have used my control space trick here. Where's status at? Ticket status. What you're saying is if they're in this role and they're choosing completed, you want it to fail, which may make sense because you don't want people in that role changing a ticket or a project to completed. It's kind of in the extra slide instead of having to create a parent table. You can do it this way. So please choose a different status or have the project manager complete this for you. Something like that.
Right. Yeah, and while, again, I think we do not expect this to work to be able to tell the difference between a new record and existing record, what you just created, I think it'd be super helpful if it doesn't matter whether it's an add or an edit, right? Like no one should be able to request a budget of over $1 million. That kind of logic, this is just how we would do that.
And we're about to get kicked out. We got like 10 seconds. So thanks everyone for coming to this session. I hope your Empower has been awesome so far, and that you truly enjoyed and found some value in this session. So I hope to see you all next year or any future trainings that the training team has to offer in the coming months. So thank you again.